While the Eurozone plunges into meltdown and the Governor of the Bank of England predicts the worst crisis in the UK since the Depression, innovative new ideas based on relationships of solidarity between countries are being successfully put into practice in the countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, or what's commonly known as ALBA. Trade between these countries is being turned into a tool to combat poverty, rather than the enrichment of powerful countries at the expense of poorer ones. Membership of ALBA has played a key role in the success of Nicaragua in rebuilding its economy and its infrastructure, whilst implementing social programs that have reduced previously high levels of poverty. Like tens of thousands of others, Nicky Hoskyns went to Nicaragua in the 1980s on a solidarity brigade. The United States was waging a blockade and war against this tiny country that had dared to go its own way and challenge US dominance of the region. Nick has worked with rural cooperatives since 1996 and is now quality manager for ALBA NISA, an ALBA food social enterprise. We asked Nick to tell us what ALBA is.
The interesting thing about ALBA is it was set up to counteract the free trade agreements being promoted by the Western world, especially the US. So in Latin America it was ALCA, and so ALBA was set up as a contrast to ALCA, and that's really important to understand ALBA. ALBA is everything that ALCA and the free trade agreements are not. So free trade agreements just talk about economics, only talk about trade, aren't interested in workers, aren't interested in people, aren't interested in the poor. ALBA is all about the poor, solidarity, Latin American peoples coming together to resolve their problems. The other thing is ALBA means daybreak. ALBA's, daybreak, dawn is hope. It's the first shining rays of the sun in the morning, and it really does feel like that in a way. A country like Nicaragua, that you've always been up against it. It's always been a struggle. Within ALBA, you've got a group of countries who understand, what you're trying to achieve and understand revolution, and in a very practical sense are prepared to support you and help you. So, ALBA, I think it's really important as well to understand the significance, how little in the West people know about ALBA. And I think that's another thing that really we should be aware of, is that ALBA is real, it's important, and it's a real Southern initiative. So when ALBA countries get together, it's not like a negotiation of who gets most and who gives least. It's the complete opposite.
Here, Nick explains how the Fair Trade Agreement between Nicaragua and Venezuela works.
Venezuela sells its oil to Nicaragua, so Nicaragua buys all of its oil from Venezuela. It pays the market price for the oil, but then 50% of that value of the oil is given to Nicaragua on payment terms of 25 years at 2% interest. So that's where Nicaragua has been able to invest in infrastructural projects, roads, energy production, and can think about long-term sort of development. Then the other 50% that Nicaragua has to pay back in 90 days, and Venezuela said to Nicaragua, you can pay me back in cash, or if you've got anything that Venezuela needs, then we'll take your products. So Nicaragua, being Nicaragua, has taken full advantage of that, and so now Nicaragua is selling, very large amounts of products to Venezuela under that fair trade agreement. The major product is meat and livestock, so that accounts for, I think, over 50% of total exports. Then there's coffee and beans, which are the two major products where the small farmers are participating. And then there's milk, UHT milk, cooking oil and sugar. The principle is a fair price for consumers and a fair price for producers. So making sure that the farmers can produce the goods at a price which works for them, but also making sure that consumers get a good quality finished product at a fair price. In 2008, a total of $27 million was exported. That went up to $109 million in 2009, was well over $250 million in 2010, and we're heading way over 350, maybe even get to $400 million for 2011. So Venezuela has now become the second most important destination for Nicaraguan exports. The first, of course, is the US. So the US's importance for the Nicaraguan economy can't be minimized, but this is a very, very different trading agreement. It's an integral approach where basically lots of different programs, very specific, very concrete, benefit the Nicaraguan population. So if we're looking at mainly the rural sector, which I know best, there was Operación Milagro, which is the miracle, Operation Miracle, which was basically that every Nicaraguan who has some sort of eye problem that requires a cataract operation has had a free operation. They've either been flown to Venezuela, to Cuba, or there has also been operations done here in Nicaragua. So that's incredible. People who thought they were never going to, have full vision again have had their sight given back to them. And so just the significance of that.
In 2009, UNESCO testified that illiteracy had been reduced from 26% to 4.7% after a 2-year adult literacy program based on the Cuban Yo Si Puedo, or Yes I Can method, and funded by ALBA. 75,000 rural women and their families are benefiting from the ALBA-funded Zero Hunger program, which is aimed at improving food security and nutrition and generating income. Women are given a cow, a pig, poultry, seeds, and wire for pens, backed up by training and technical support.
Electricity, which was an enormous problem in Nicaragua. We used to have eight hours power cuts a day. Companies were trying to, we were trying to run our sesame plants and our coffee plants and you never knew when the energy was going to be cut off. And now you've got energy production, and that's being produced by these ALBA countries. It's improving, the lifestyle, and poverty's gone down 7%. But Nicaragua has achieved a reduction in poverty. Exports are growing at around 30%, and so the economy as a whole is growing at 4%, while we're, in the West looking at stagnation. So ALBA's working for the people directly, and it's also working for the economy as a whole, for big businesses, for medium businesses, small businesses, and for individual families.
Here, Nick explains what Nicaragua contributes to ALBA.
Nicaragua speaks out on international issues in favour of the ALBA countries every time there is a problem, an international problem involving one of the ALBA countries. Nicaragua is up there in the United Nations, giving a clear, strong voice and an independent opinion from any lobbying from Western countries. I think that's vital. And then for us, which is amazing, is that the cooperative movement in Nicaragua has been identified as a possible model, as a possible example for the whole of ALBA. I personally have been privileged to be involved with the interchange between the Cuban cooperative movement and the Nicaraguan cooperative movement, where Cuba's looking at the model of second-level cooperatives in Nicaragua as a very, very important model for them in their development of their economy. And I truly believe that in the future, Nicaragua is going to provide a real model for the other ALBA countries, how to work in that inclusive, in that integral way, incorporating large companies, medium-sized companies, but all without compromising your commitment to the small farmers and the cooperatives.
So what does ALBA mean for someone like Nick?
I think ALBA is an incredible space for those of us who enjoy, you know, innovation, sort of putting our ideas into practice, but within a social model, within a politically, socially clear sort of model where we are batting for the poor and disadvantaged. And I just feel that ALBA is talking sense, where when I listen to the debates around, you know, the bailouts of the banks and the European Union, and what are we going to do with Italy, France and Spain and Greece, these terrible, you know, countries that are bringing the whole European Union down, what are we going to do about them? It just feels all so wrong. You know, it's all about economics, it's all about money, it's all about whereas, you know, ALBA is a place where you can work within a framework which talks about solidarity, which talks about social development, which talks about the health of people, the education of people, and all people, not just those who can afford it.
We asked Nick to tell us what he thinks the future holds for ALBA.
And the thing to understand about ALBA is it's going to happen. So it's got the firm commitment of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries. The presidents of those countries are completely committed, and it's about doing and it's about achieving. So Nicaragua, where you had power cuts, it was decided 5 years later you're going to produce enough energies for there not to be any more power cuts. That's been achieved. We're going to sell livestock from, you know, cows, from young cows from Nicaragua to Venezuela. There wasn't even a boat that could do it. There wasn't a shipping route that went there, and now it's happening. You know, there's definitely airlines in the sort of mix. They decided to give everybody back their sight who could have a cataract operation, and now they've got it. It's decided that every child in Nicaragua gets a meal every day, so that all the poor, you know, disadvantaged children who get to school get at least one good meal a day. That's happening. It was decided because of the, you know, the rains and the hurricanes, that everybody should have a roof, a decent roof. Now Plan Techo, which I didn't mention earlier, that's another project of ALBA, which gives 12 large corrugated iron sheets to each family who needs it. You know, so they decided it. There's a big, you can see out here, we're close to the lake of Nicaragua, and so there's an enormous large infrastructural irrigation project in the making. So this mix of the micro and the macro, but it's gonna, the only thing I can definitely guarantee is something's gonna happen, and they're gonna be good things. It's a group of countries that's there to do stuff and to develop and to make a difference to the lives of the poor and the disadvantaged. And it's, in Nicaragua at least at the moment, it's politically successful. You know, this is real and it's working and it's developing.
En su capital, la linda Managua, la terremoteada del 72. Su primera ciudad son Granada, la universitaria ciudad de León. Cuando escuché el himno